World Cup draw landed. Obviously, I already made a video about the spectacle that was the World Cup draw, so now we can talk about the actual draw in terms of the groups and the teams that are there. In case you missed it, I'll just throw it up on the screen now. These are the groups for the World Cup in 2026. The World Cup draw day is always an overlooked day, but it is one of the most important. Like the story, at least the majority of the story of the World Cup in terms of the number of matches played and the number of moments that'll happen on the field, right? That is decided in this very draw. And I am very happy with the way that it has come out for the U.S. But we'll start with Group A. You got Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, and the UEFA Path D winner, which is most likely Denmark, but there's also Ireland and Czechia in that part of the draw. So that's going to be a very attainable group for literally any of those teams. I think if you're Irish, you're coming out of this, you're looking at Group A, and you're going, holy shiitake mushrooms, Batman. That's something that we could finish top of. I think Czechia and Denmark could believe that they have an opportunity to finish top of that. I think, honestly, if you go down to North Macedonia, then you probably don't. But seriously, they're not far off here, right? South Africa is a good team. Right, they did a good job. They finished ahead of Nigeria in World Cup qualifying, knocked them out despite getting a points deduction as well. The problem for this group really is that Mexico is ass. They're not very good. They are probably at the lowest level that a Mexican national team has been at in a long time, a very long time. They are going to be playing at home, and that Mexican crowd is insane. But recently, and this is something to consider, Mexican players like Raul Jimenez has mentioned that playing at home is actually kind of depressing for them because they get booed so aggressively. And so this World Cup home advantage could turn into a disadvantage for Mexico, particularly if that first match against South Africa does not go well. And based off recent results, like you picking Mexico against Nigeria, South Africa just beat them in qualifying. So South Korea's there. They are a perennial dark horse, right? They're the shot in the dark sniper that can pick off a big team but can't seem to be able to consistently put anything together. Same thing happens in Asian Cup and wherever else. They can consistently make the World Cup, and they have star players that play in big leagues. They just can't fully get there. I think if you're Denmark, you're licking your lips at this. Denmark gets into this group. They are the odds-on favorite to finish first in this group as well. But this is going to be, as most of the bad groups are, a very interesting group to watch unfold, because I think it is within the realm of possibility for all four teams in this group to win the entire thing, and that is fun. Group B is Canada, Italy, potentially the UEFA Path A winner, Qatar, and Switzerland. If you're Switzerland, you're unbelievably happy with this draw. Your pot 1 team is Canada. Your pot 3 team is Qatar. That's the weakest team in those two pots for me. Very unlucky to get the UEFA Path A, but obviously the way that Italy's been playing, it's entirely possible you get Wales, Bosnia and Herzegovina, or even Northern Ireland that's grabbing that spot instead. And then if that's not Italy, this group is a cakewalk for Switzerland. Canada's tough at home. Canada's home advantage is very real. Last time they played World Cup qualifying, they were lethal at home. They didn't lose a match the entirety of the CONCACAF qualifying section, finished ahead of Mexico and the United States in that process. Canada's going to be tough. I think people are overlooking Canada. They've had a lot of seasoning since their kind of debut World Cup 4 years ago, even though it wasn't their actual debut. It was the debut for this generation of Canadian footballers, first time in a long time that they'd been to the World Cup. So now that they're back to consecutive World Cups, a lot of seasoning, more of their players have a lot more experience at the top level. I feel like guys like Jonathan David have taken another step. Steven Eustachio, Tajon Buchanan, these guys have grown into themselves more, even if Buchanan's coming off an injury. Qatar is a choke job at the World Cup. They're back-to-back Asian champions, but they barely squeaked their way through World Cup qualifying. I don't know how they've managed to win consecutive Asian championships like over, Japan, South Korea, Iran, Australia, Saudi Arabia, but they have. I don't expect much out of them in this particular spot. I think if you are a team in the Path A, if you're Italian, you got to be over the moon about this. Incredible draw. Switzerland is who they are. They're a tough out, good team. They're not going to give it to you. You're going to have to go take it. I think Canada could go take it. But I think that basically every team is going to be pretty happy with this draw. Switzerland and whoever comes out of Path A is going to be ridiculously happy. Group C, kind of murderous. You got Brazil, Morocco, Scotland. Right there, 3 teams that are not easy to play against. Obviously, all for different reasons. Brazil's got incredible talent, but They suck right now. And I'm not being over dramatic here. Brazil had 2 more losses in World Cup qualifying than Paraguay. They are not very good right now. They can't put it together, and I'm talking even after Ancelotti got there. Maybe he can raise that eyebrow enough to make something happen. They have a ton of talent. They're Brazil. They always will. They just can't figure it out right now, and that leaves the door open for Morocco, who both of their youth national teams have been crazy impressive. They made the semifinals, first African team to ever get there, which is the last continent outside of Oceania to get a team to the semifinals of a World Cup. So congrats to them. But the feeling is that they've just gotten better. That's kind of added fuel to the fire. There is expectation. There is a level to the game that Morocco's bringing. Their World Cup qualifying was literally perfect. They won every match, right? They're there with a fireball's momentum, and that makes this a pretty nightmarish group for Scotland to have been dropped into. Now, Scotland had a flurry and an unbelievable performance against Denmark to get themselves to this World Cup. But can Scotland really get enough goals into the back of the net to be able to beat Brazil or Morocco? Now, look, Haiti is going to get a participation trophy in this World Cup. This is a brutal group draw for Haiti. They did a great job knocking Costa Rica and Honduras out in their qualifying group. They were in their first World Cup in over 50 years. I am incredibly, incredibly happy for them. I see no way that they're going to be able to scrounge together a win in this group against any of these 3 teams. If they're going to get one, it's going to be Scotland. That's just because I feel like Scotland, with their striker situations, they're not going to be bagging a ton of goals. They need their goals to come from elsewhere. McTominay bicycle kicks, midfield, half field, lob the keeper shot. Right? They need Kieran Tierney to hit a banger from outside the box in order to get their goals. I think Scotland is gonna grind out and advance as a 3rd place team, perhaps in this group. But this is one of the tougher groups. And if there is going to be a group where Brazil, Morocco don't make it out, this group could do it. If Haiti steals a draw, which is possible, right? The Haitian team has a lot of guys that play in the French leagues. It is possible that they can just steal a draw, right? Maybe they get a set piece goal late, or who the hell knows. But every team that goes to the World Cup, even with the expanded 48 team World Cup, those are some athletes at a very high level that are going to be giving it their absolute all. And if you are not on your game, if you have a bad day at the office, let's say Haiti steals a point from a Brazil, from a Morocco, this is the type of group where there's not going to be a match that you can walk through outside of that Haiti match. It can be a little dangerous. Group D, United States, Paraguay, Australia, and the UEFA Path C winner, which is Turkey, most likely. But obviously, I'm doing my due diligence here. I'll show you the other teams. It's Turkey, Romania, Kosovo, or Slovakia. If it's any team outside Turkey, this is a wonderful group for the U.S. Turkey's been really good recently, quarterfinals at the last Euros. They drew Spain as part of their World Cup qualifying. If this is Turkey, this group can be dangerous. It's obviously pretty easy. But Paraguay only lost 4 of their 18 matches in South American qualifying, which again allows me to say that cool stat about them matching Brazil in points and having 2 less losses. But they're one of those physical, tough out teams from South America. They're like a poor man's Ecuador, basically. They are in there to grind it out. And Australia is always more than the sum of its parts. Playing Australia is like playing one of the old U.S. national teams from like 2006 or something, from the 2010 World Cup in South Africa. That's what the Australian national team feels like. I mean, you're looking at a team that managed to get to the knockouts at the last World Cup in Australia, so you don't want to sleep on them. And then if you also add Turkey in there, things could get spicy. The United States starts against Paraguay. I think if you go out and win that match, you're going to be fine. Next match is Australia. Final match is the European winner. If you're Turkey, you're looking at this group thinking, hot diggity dog. You wanted one of the 3 hosts as a pot 1 team. You got it. This is a incredibly approachable group for whatever team comes out of UEFA Path C. Group E, Germany, Curacao, Ivory Coast, Ecuador. Potential nightmare for Germany. I'm telling you. Ivory Coast was outstanding in World Cup qualifying. They are the reigning African champions. Ivory Coast was out in the wilderness for a little bit, but their national team has figured shit out fast. They are very good right now. Ecuador, second best team in South America right now. They had a 3-point deduction, so they only finished 1 point ahead of Brazil and Paraguay and Colombia and Uruguay in World Cup qualifying. You get rid of that 3-point deduction, which was for like not on the field stuff. They were 4 points clear of all of those teams. Ecuador gave up 5 goals in 18 matches. in South American qualifying. It was 0-0 or 1-0 every single time. This team is unkillable, right? They are built to be a nightmare in a tournament scenario in Ecuador. And do not sleep on them. They have talented young attackers. They've got a good midfield led by Moises Caicedo. And they've got a defense. Piero Hincapie's out there, right? They have guys. They have legit guys that play for big clubs on big stages. In Ecuador, they've not put it together at a tournament before. They're dangerous. Ivory Coast is who you think they are, right? They're not like the poor man's Ivory Coast who've been getting the last couple cycles. They are back. Curacao, not dangerous. I think they're the worst team in the tournament. I love them. Love the fact that they're there. I think it's awesome that they upset Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago. To get there, they're not really at that level yet. I mean, their national team was founded 13, 14 years ago when the Netherlands Antilles national team broke up. So, I mean, they're way ahead of schedule being here. But Germany has to deal with Ivory Coast and Ecuador. Outside of the spanking Germany delivered to Slovakia in the end of World Cup qualifying, Germany's been uninspired. They've had a couple of rough World Cups. This cycle of players just has struggled to get things to work well together. You get Musiala, you get Lord Voldemort up there. Like, you should be able to figure something out. You should be able to figure something out. They just haven't consistently. And if you're sputtering, you do not want to be playing hot teams. And Germany's got two of them. They've got two teams that are smoking hot in international play. I'm just saying, this could get dangerous. This could get tricky. Germany is not, if I was German, I would not be thrilled with this draw. I know you don't have another European team in your group, but you have two of the teams outside of the European teams that you would least want to see in your group. Group F, Netherlands, Japan, UEFA Path B, and Tunisia. Okay, this is really interesting. I think Netherlands and Japan are 1A and 1B here. Japan is a beast. Their national team, not only have they made consecutive knockout rounds in the last World Cups, not only did they knock out Germany while beating both Germany and Spain at the last World Cup, they seem to have gotten better. The number of Japanese players just getting pumped into European leagues is insane. The J-League level is just skyrocketing. The investment in the sport in Japan has skyrocketed, and they are doing it the right way. This team, Japan feels like a matter of time to me. Netherlands has obviously come back. They're good. They're always going to be good. They've got players scattered across the big teams. Right? So this is a showdown. I think it's a very close showdown between these two teams. UEFA Path B is the weakest one in terms of the top. Right? Ukraine, I believe, is the top-seeded team here. And then Sweden, Poland, and Albania. Whoever comes out of this group, you're not going to get an Italy. You're not even going to get a Denmark, who I would consider a level above all of the teams that are in that group in particular, at least the way they've played the last 8-10 years. That is not the group you want to see if you're coming out of UEFA Path B. You do not want to run into the Netherlands and Japan. Tunisia's annoying because Tunisia is like a poor man's Ecuador. They don't give up anything. They play with structure. That national team, I feel like it's been all the same guys for 12 years. They just batten down the hatches, shut everybody down. They are so consistent. They lack, obviously, the top-level star talent, and they're not rocking Wabi Kazri anymore to go in there and make a difference. He was fabulous. But they are still just who they're like one of the most consistent qualifiers out of a notoriously volatile qualifying system in Africa. Tunisia makes it every time. They're here again. And so they're going to, look, mark my words, Tunisia's not in it on zero. They're taking somebody for a 0-0, at least. And so they're a spoiler in this group. I don't think they have the firepower to finish ahead of any of these teams, but they're ruining somebody's day. And so this group is a nightmare. I do not want to be in here. Even though the Netherlands is a weak pot one team, this group is just going to be a mud wrestling fest where nobody's clinching qualification early in this group. Group G, Belgium woke up in a dream with this. They've got Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand. This is just, you've died and gone to heaven. This is an incredible draw. Egypt, they've got Mo Salah, Marmoush. They have talent. They've got the creativity on the wings. I don't trust the team as a whole. Iran's a very similar team. Iran and Egypt are also going to exhaust themselves against each other. That is a massive, Muslim world showdown. It's gonna. I mean, it's the derby that outside of that area in the world you probably wouldn't think of, but those two teams are going to be at each other's throats. New Zealand's here for vibes, right? Last time they were in a World Cup, they drew Italy and Slovakia. They were the only unbeaten team at the 2010 World Cup because they drew all 3 group stage matches and then got knocked out in the group stage. They were the only team that didn't lose a match in that whole World Cup. It's one of the weird, fun facts that I parrot all the time. Do I think they've got enough now? They do have Chris Wood. How much can Chris Wood do? I don't know. Right? They haven't been to a World Cup since 2010. They're playing qualifying out of Oceania. They are a complete unknown, right? They're just jumping in here with a Premier League striker and some dudes you haven't heard of. One guy I went to college with named Joe Bell, who keeps popping up on their national team, and they're just going to figure it out. Iran and Egypt feel like clones of each other in a lot of ways. Iran's got Mehdi Taremi up there. Obviously, he's not Mo Salah or Marmoush, but these are 2 teams that are based off of domestic leagues that are out of the spotlight but have a good amount of money and a pretty decent level. Like, obviously, Iran and Egypt, Iran in particular, are able to consistently make World Cups with kind of their domestic league guys leading the way. But Iran's national team, I'm just letting you know, little tumultuous. Mehdi Taremi, after one of their friendlies, came out and said a lot of stuff about how the FA and the government wasn't supporting the league and letting fans go to games, and that football wasn't going to be able to grow in Iran as long as they were doing this. And obviously Iran's political situation has been a little up and down, so to speak. And so that seems to be playing into it as well. I don't know what mental state basically the Iranian team is going to show up at this tournament in. I said the same thing about the tournament 4 years ago because they had a whole other ball of shit going on at the time. And they showed up and beat Wales and actually gave a pretty good account of themselves at that tournament. So I could be wrong. I don't mean to be, right? My love to my Iranian brothers. But I don't know what state they're going to show up in. And maybe if they show up not fully into it or just out of sorts, New Zealand could pick them off. If Belgium doesn't win this group, hell freezes over. I mean, they got to. I don't care if they're in bad form or not. This is the easiest group in the tournament. Group H, Spain, Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia, and Uruguay. Uruguay's having a bit of a house fire right now after losing 5-1 to the U.S. with their A team in a friendly. So they're trying to figure that out. Saudi Arabia is going into this tournament with actual expectations, which is dangerous. It's really easy to punch up when you have no expectations. Now the Saudi public, the Saudi royalty, and the team themselves will expect that they can do something in this tournament. And also, everybody's going to look at Cape Verde and pretend they're Curacao. They're not. Cape Verde finished ahead of Cameroon pretty comfortably. Cape Verde's got dudes playing in big leagues. This is like, there are no lower level professionals on this Cape Verde national team. They are legit. They have been legit for a while. This is, again, not Curacao, where they've only existed for 13 years. Cape Verde has been threatening World Cup qualification for more than 3 or 4 cycles, right? They have been good. They have been competitive. They've been in AFCONs. They were ready for this. They built their national team into this. Cape Verde is also not leaving here with 0. I don't know who they're going to get. They're going to get somebody. Do I think they're going to be able to get out of the group? No, probably not. But they are certainly not, as their name would suggest, you can totally overlook them. You cannot totally overlook this team. And so, with that said, I think Spain wins this group pretty easily. You've got a reeling Uruguay. You've got Saudi Arabia, who just, I don't think their level's raised as much as they would have hoped. And Cape Verde, who's dangerous, but not dangerous enough to threaten Spain. Spain is happy with this draw. I would be if I was them. Which brings us to the real group of death, Group I, which is France, Senegal, real dangerous team in Senegal, right? Players all over top leagues, big teams. And then, of course, Norway, best striker in the world, and a national team that generally seems to have figured it out by abusing Italy to the tune of a 7-1 aggregate score in qualifying. So that sucks for the Intercontinental Path 2 winner, which is either Iraq, Bolivia, or Suriname. Whoever comes out of that playoff is getting murdered. The most optimistic pick would be Iraq. Even if it is Iraq, I think they're getting murdered. Iraq just doesn't have that level to go and match these teams, or at least give them a problem. They don't. I love the Iraqi national team. They won the Asian Cup in 2007. It's one of the greatest stories in the history of football. They haven't been to a World Cup since the 80s. It would be awesome for them to go and get that moment. I think they're going to get destroyed if they get there. France, Senegal, and Norway are going to beat each other's throats. I mean, France is better. And head-to-head, I think Norway and Senegal is going to be a hell of a match. I think it's going to be fun. You're going to get Mbappe and Erling Haaland matching up against each other, a legacy game at the World Cup. That's going to be great as well. I think France should win this group. But I think both Senegal and Norway have a legitimate chance to beat France in the right conditions. And that makes this group incredibly exciting. Group J, Argentina, Algeria, Austria, and Jordan. This is the front of the line of the alphabet over here. Argentina, not the easiest group, but they should be able to navigate it okay. Austria lacks the boom. They don't have a lot of offense. They still have Arnautovic running around up there. Algeria has raised its level back to get to the World Cup. It's been a little while since they got here, but they've always been good in that whole interim period. And Jordan, I'm tempted to say don't sleep on them, but you probably can. Jordan made the Asian Cup final at the last Asian Cup, so I mean they are a pretty legit team, right? They beat South Korea, Japan. They finished ahead of South Korea, Japan, Australia at that tournament. They've got a striker in the French league, Al Tamari, I believe his name is. I'm going to check that. Moussa Al Tamari. I was right. Man, ball knowledge undefeated. Moussa Al Tamari, he's pretty good. Their team, though, is fairly domestic, fairly out of the big league eye, much the same way of like in Iran. And so you kind of just have to go off the results. You can't really point to a ton of players and be like, yeah, watch that guy play a bunch. They should be competitive. They shouldn't be blown out too much based off the way they hang with the Japans and South Koreas of the world and beat them in major tournaments in Asia. But this has got to be a bridge too far. I don't consider them a legitimate threat to finish ahead of Austria or Algeria, and that this group should be Argentina. If it's somebody that's not Argentina, it's probably Austria playing defense and scoring on set pieces and like controlling the match out of the midfield, which it could be able to do. Group K, Portugal, the Intercontinental Path 1 winner, which is likely DR Congo or Jamaica. Could be New Caledonia. If it is, that's like an all-time upset run in the playoff. Uzbekistan or Colombia. The Uzbeks have had a pretty good run recently. I'll pull it up for you. The Uzbekistan national team, just because people know nothing about them, but I've been following them for a while, right? A couple of friendlies. They only lost by 1 goal to Uruguay. They beat Egypt 2-0. They beat Iran on penalties. That was the match that actually triggered the meltdown by Mehdi Taremi, talking about that penalty shootout and what was wrong with Iranian football and everything. So not a team that's going to get blown away. Right, they're playing against World Cup level competition and they're not getting flattened. I mean, maybe the bright lights of the moment and Cristiano Ronaldo's dentures kind of blinds them, but I don't think that's going to happen. They've been waiting, much the same as Cape Verde, a long time. They've been close for a long time. This has been a good national team, not a great national team on the Asian level for a while, and they have finally broken through and they're here and they're probably not going to want to waste that. But them and DR Congo are fun. DR Congo and Uzbekistan in the same group is a lot of fun, assuming it's them. It could be Jamaica or New Caledonia, obviously. Portugal and Colombia should be able to handle that. Now, DR Congo did knock out Cameroon and Nigeria. That's worth remembering. Those are two real good African teams. Obviously, they're not playing super well right now, but talented African teams that have been eliminated. So DR Congo can handle that kind of talent. Maybe they can take something from Colombia. I'm expecting one of the two, DR Congo or Uzbekistan, to play a fun game with Portugal. This should be Portugal-Colombia, though. And then Group L, bit of a weirdly nightmarish group for England here. England-Croatia is the opening match, Ghana and Panama. Panama's who they are. It's their second ever World Cup. They played England at their first World Cup. They lost 7-1. We're now 8 years on from that. I think Panama's a better team. They're 30th in the world. Which might be stunningly high for a lot of people that haven't been keeping track of CONCACAF football, but Panama's pretty good. They're not as good as any of the other teams in this group, but they are not as bad as they were, which could be annoying. Again, you're looking for those teams like Tunisia or whatever that could snake a draw if you're not paying attention. Panama could, right? I don't think it'll be 7-1 the next time they play England. So England's going up against Croatia. Then they have Ghana. Those are England's first two matches. Ghana is 72nd in the world because they've been in the dumpster when it comes to World Cup qualifying, African Cup, like AFCON, whatever. They have been in the dumpster. They've been so bad. They managed to make the last World Cup. Who the hell knows how? Well, actually, I do know how. It was a goalkeeper mistake by Nigeria. They're still sending the cops after the guy. It was a horrendous goalkeeper mistake by Nigeria that let Ghana into the World Cup. That's the pain of recording in New York, by the way. My goodness. The amount of honks and sirens and just people walking by with boom boxes or whatever. I'm just powering through it on this recording, but a lot of it, the price to pay for all this square footage. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, getting Ghana out of pot four, not a great pull for England, especially considering they weren't going to get one of the European playoff teams. Basically, the hardest draw you could have gotten was Ghana, because even though they're 72nd in the world, they were always a team with talent, right? And they still have that talent. You're still going to have to try and contain Mohamed Kudus. You're still going to have to try and contain Iñaki Williams, right? They have guys that can go out there and cause problems for you. England should be fine. They were great in qualifying. They're always great in qualifying. But there's enough in this group to be annoying. It's not a group that England can look at like Belgium's or Portugal's, where you can just go, oh, yeah, or Spain's, where you're like, yeah, no, we're going to be okay, right? There's enough to think about. There's enough world-class talent on a couple of these teams that you're like, that's annoying. And that's what you don't want out of a World Cup draw. But that's the situation. We have the draw, and in March, the playoffs will be completed. And if there's some upsets, there'll be some happy teams in these groups. You know, if Italy, Turkey, Denmark don't make it out of their group, they'll be real happy. If New Caledonia somehow finds a way by Jamaica and DR Congo, they're going to be real happy, right? And if somehow Bolivia or even Suriname find a way through instead of Iraq, then everybody, you know, Suriname will be a literal lamb to the slaughter. But hey, if you make the World Cup, you make the World Cup, and you deserve to celebrate.